Thank you, Jane. A year ago yesterday, our brother Santiago Rafael Cruz was brutally murdered in our union office in Monterrey, Mexico. He was tied up and beat to death. And I was down there the next day arranging for his body to be taken care of and sent home for a funeral. And that, more than anything, symbolizes the threat of what we're facing in, I think, all trade union movements today. That we're a threat to that diabolic elixir of demagogues, oligarchies, unfair trade, and financial services industry. And their moving apparatus is multinational corporations with their global structures. You see, what Santiago, one of his responsibilities was to educate workers who are part of this guest worker agreement, to teach them about the laws and the rights that they have, particularly under the collective bargaining agreement. In signing this agreement, it was a breakthrough in being a transnational labor agreement whereby workers have a right in Mexico now to file grievances in Mexico against North American employers and the procedures that are used to bring them from there to the workplace. We processed in the first 3 years of that agreement over 3,000 inquiries, irregularities, and grievances. We probably know more about guest worker programs than anyone would care to know, because of their inherent abuses within the system, even in the most best laws that can exist to protect guest workers. There's inherent inequities just that are natural. And having a collective bargaining agreement and a grievance procedure where workers can challenge some of those inequities, as they say, the devil is in the details. And for instance, you know, the AFL-CIO is pushing, they're banking all their resources in this next presidential campaign so they can get an Employees' Free Choice Act. Well, I hope they get it, and I'll support it, but I'm not naive knowing that Employee Free Choice excludes farm workers. It doesn't include us. We are always the forgotten ones outside the labor movement, so we have to make some noise to get ourselves in. But we can't wait to have laws, even good laws, to protect us, because who's going to implement them, for one thing? That's been one of the worst problems. Even the current laws protecting agricultural workers, I don't care, even federal minimum wage laws, who's out there policing that in the fields? Does anybody who's ever seen a farm worker, has anybody ever seen a time clock in the field? Come on. I mean, it's a laugher. So any law that they give us is still going to be up to us to make sure that we have our rights protected. We can't depend on the politicians, we can't depend on Congress to preserve our rights as working people. In negotiating this agreement, that we just amended it, a one-year extension in February 1st, we made stronger that transnational right for workers to grieve and correct the abuses. And one of the first things we did that led to the anger of the corrupt elements connected to these programs was the fact that we challenged the fees that are charged to workers for the privilege of being recruited to come work with a visa in the United States. When the recruiters are out in the boondocks, in the mountains of Mexico, you know, you got a worker sitting out there and said, well, you know, I can't make a living here. this trade deal with the United States. I mean, we've displaced the Carnegie Endowment, updated the report and said that in the commodity of corn alone, we have displaced over 6 million corn farmers in Mexico. Santiago Rafael Cruz, who was murdered, was such a corn farmer in Oaxaca. And he came as an undocumented worker to Ohio, where he got involved with FLOC and became an organizer for us for 4 years before he got deported, and then came to work for our office in Monterrey. Well, here again, I mean, that's the problem with this immigration debate, and they say, we're blaming the victims that we've made, because North American corn farmers are highly subsidized. They take over the corn market in Mexico. We displace them. Now we're whining about something that's our own, that we're responsible for. So we tell the workers, wait a minute, the collective bargaining agreement says now, we want it in a federal court order first, not to charge any fees in Mexico. And then that court order expired January 1st of this year. But then we renegotiated the agreement and codified it in the collective bargaining agreement, no fees. We made the employers pay those fees in advance because it's to their benefit. The fees were the consulate interview fees, the actual issuing of the visa, and the recruiting fees. They made the workers pay that up front at their expense. And of course, many of them were extorted double the amount. That we had workers that were paying $1,500, $1,600, $2,000 for the privilege of being recruited legally to come to the United States and work. So you have a poor worker out on the mountain say, well, do I hire a smuggler to pay him $3,000 to sneak me across the border? Do I pay this recruiter $1,500 or $1,600? Well, I'll pay the $1,500 or $1,600. To them was a survival question. We said, wait, brothers, you don't have to do that anymore. So what we did, we took the possibility of money changing hands out of the picture. We took the temptation out for that abuse to happen, and we made the employers pay those fees up front. And that made the recruiters very angry at us. And that's why the whole network of criminal types started harassing us, breaking into our office, and it was leading up to that murder. We were just harassed time and again in our office in Monterrey. After Santiago was murdered, we petitioned the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, and they adopted the case as an official human rights case. So now the government of Nuevo León and the federal government of Mexico can't get away with sweeping it under the rug, because they have to report their findings to the commission, and they have to give official reports. And so we have one of the best human rights lawyers in Mexico, Leonel Rivero, who also represents the Antenco community, who stopped the expansion of the Mexico City airport, to keep the fire on the government to do an honest and fair investigation. There's still 3 murderers at large. We caught one, and his record indicates what we thought it was. He's got a long record of human trafficking, drug trafficking, and armed robbery here in the United States. He has a record, and he was caught down there. So there is a conspiracy to send us a message. They could have murdered Santiago anywhere on the street in Monterrey. It's the murder capital of Mexico. But they chose to murder him in the office to send us a message. We responded with renovating that office, putting in another floor on top, and making it a conference room there so we can train workers, bring workers in to train them about their rights. We're here to stay. And we renamed it the Santiago Rafael Cruz Justice Center, right there in downtown Monterrey, Mexico.